Hey everybody, today I'm with ThreatQ, Matt and Christian. We're going to talk all about improving security operations by fusing together data sources, tools, and teams. What could be a more interesting topic? Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good for a Monday, all things considered, but we're going to liven things up a bit. We'll start with some introductions, guys, before we get to ThreatQ. Matt, do you want to start? Maybe introduce yourself and your role at ThreatQ.
Sure. Hey, Matt McCormick with ThreatQ. Been here for about 7 years. I run global partnerships and our federal business. Nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you. And Christian, same
Howdy.
thing.
Howdy. Good to talk to everybody. Christian Galladora, Principal Business Development Engineer here at ThreatQ. And I've been supporting Matt for most of my 7 years here. I started as a QA engineer, so testing the APIs and then, of course, getting to work your way up to do business development, engineering type stuff. Um, I've seen it all. It's been a fun time.
Oh, it's great. I can't wait to pick your brains on the cybersecurity space. And Matt, maybe start. How do you introduce ThreatQ? You have so many different facets to the organization. Give us a bit of an elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's great. And, one of the things I think when you and I reached out, it was around the community that we set up, which is kind of, if you think of it as an open source project, but I'll give a little bit of kind of who we are because that helps explain what the ThreatQ community is. So ThreatQ, we started as a threat intel platform about 10 years ago. Actually, our founders came out of General Dynamics, the chief architect and the guy who
Mm.
ran global security operations. And the problem they were trying to solve was too much noise and inefficiencies in the SOC. And the product they developed was able to deduplicate. Well, it started with threat intel information, but now it's all information. Prioritize it based on who the customers are, and then make it actionable or usable. So that's the base product that we sell. Christian, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you did a great job over explaining kind of the base product. But I think to really tee it up as to where this community came from, right? So we work in cybersecurity. And of course, there's this strong sort of cultural association with privacy and security. So in doing this for a number of years and helping people when they come to us and say, hey, we've got too many intelligence sources. How do we actually manage all this? And how do we
Mm.
actually do anything with it? Um, you talk to these really sophisticated people that are running security operations centers and intel programs, but you're not allowed to talk about them to like somebody else, right? So someone might come with a challenge and you work with them and you develop a solution, but you can't go to the rest of the world and say, hey, we've now solved this thing in a very specific way with this very specific account, right? So sort of where this started to come from, and Matt, I'll let you give your thoughts as well, but there was a need to get folks that are at different places, different organizations, to work together in a very candid, kind of informal way, because many
Mm.
of them are trying to work through the same problems, and they don't exactly have a place to be very candid about what they're working on, what their sources are, and so on.
Well, that's a fantastic approach, and the industry certainly needs more of that. And Matt, maybe describe the community. Is this like a bulletin board back in the old day? Is this a Slack channel? I mean, how do you guys come together in a private, secure, and meaningful way?
Yeah, well, thank you, Evan. I'll tell you a story to kind of show what this is. So, Christian and I actually belong to another organization. It's a volunteer organization that think of it as working on a current world problem. And the way this organization came together was a gentleman came up with the idea, and it's pure volunteer organization, and it's an extremely effective organization. He came up with an idea. He brought in his group of friends and shared the idea with them. And then what he did was pretty unique. He actually went and told them, "You bring in people you know and trust yourselves." and we were actually brought in by the lead threat intel person of a pretty large company that everyone's heard of. And it's amazing how effective this group was at getting all sorts of different organizations, publicly and privately. So government organizations, commercial organizations, trying to help and trying to do something right in this world. And just how quickly it came together and how effective it was. Got Christian and I talking, and this is that we're part of that program we're still part of it, but we go back about 24 months on that. And then Chris and I were talking around this time last year, and the concept is we know all these really good people, as Christian was just talking about, in cyber, lead people, very talented that we know and like. And we decided we'd go to our CFO and CEO and ask, can we kind of donate a ThreatQ instance that we host in a SOC 2 environment for people to use and not sell them anything, not market to them, just allow them to use it. And we kind of had the same effect as that volunteer organization, which is entirely separate, that we ended up with about 150 different people in that ThreatQ instance sharing information, represented about 85 different companies, big companies, small companies, governments, people that are all very talented. And the way it grew was a similar way, that people that they knew and trusted, they brought into this circle. And what we saw in there was people started sharing real-time threat data. So we had one example, and Kristen can give a lot more examples than I have, but one example, Sunday night, a large MSSP provider went and said, hey, I'm seeing this set of data across multiple customers. Is anyone else seeing it? And then he loaded it up into ThreatQ so other people could use it and protect their organizations. And there are really no rules to the environment. Christy and I both came from SourceFire, where we spent many years, and SourceFire, of course, gave away Snort to the community, which was highly effective. One of the, probably to this day, the largest intrusion detection tool ever built in the world. And it was a community-based. People shared it. So we've seen that effectiveness, and this has became the same way. And then about 2 months ago, we went, our marketing team and our company's been, hey, should we make this grow? So really, Christian went out to, and we call it a Pele. It just means threat in ancient Greek. It's nothing too creative, but into the Appealy group and said, hey, anyone care if we do a press release inviting others into the group? And not just anyone. You need to be qualified. You need to be vetted. And they came back and said, yeah, let's get more people in here. And that's what we did. And that's why when you had reached out to me, that kind of started those conversations. So Christian, as always, what am I missing?
No, you did a great job. As far as the naming, people ask about it a lot. We tried to incorporate the name Fire in there, but it just, everything was taken. So we had to go back to the ancient languages.
Very clever.
That's
So
all.
what's next for the community? Bigger, more people, more engagement, meetups, get-togethers. Like, how do you see this evolving over time? And how can people join if they happen to be watching and are an analyst or what have you? How can they get engaged and participate?
Kristen, why don't you take first crack on this one?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with what's next. I would love to do some meetups. Something that I've had in my brain that I've been kind of putting together is starting to think about where people who are members are located, and then maybe doing some little informal happy hours just to put names and faces and things like that. But as far as additional workflows and how to make things better, I have more ideas than we actually have time to implement. Things like categorizing intel requirements in a more automated, streamlined fashion, right? What does that allow you to do? It allows you to work with a more defined workflow in terms of disseminating intelligence to the relevant systems that are using it to protect organizations like yours from attackers that are hitting infrastructure like the infrastructure you have. Custom dashboards, right, based on that same concept. So that's something that's a little bit more immediate term. As far as growing the organization, I'd love to. As anyone that we feel and that the community feels is like a valuable member. What does valuable mean? Just someone that's a doer. People who actually work doing the intel work, that have opinions about what's going on in the world, that are informed by their day-to-day or even hobbyist activity. Right now, I'm not just calling out any hobbyist, right? Like we want, well-reasoned, great analysts, but any and all of the above. And as far as how to apply, we do have a bit of a process on how to get apply, get approved, and get access. There's a web portal. Matt, I'm not sure if you have the URL. If you talk for 10 seconds, I could probably find it. I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll let you do that. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of what's in Appealy today, or the ThreatQ community. It's some open source data. So we have pretty good open source feeds. And one of the unique things about what's in there is we're pulling information from different webs. We're following different Twitter accounts that provide good information. We're pulling some of that in. We're doing some actually natural language processing on some of the things to pull out related indicators. One of the kind of cool things is we take input from the community. They'll say, I'm following these two people on Twitter. They're really good. They get me good quality information. Can you add them? And we'll add them. So the data in there is becoming better and better. Christian does have an intern working for him. He's a gentleman out of college up in Providence. He's a math major doing some work in Appealy as well. So the data in there is getting better, but it's only as good as community. We tell people, don't post things that you don't want to be shown to others, obviously. And then people can go in there and just do what they want. They don't have to post anything. There, as mentioned before, there are no rules. Christian and I were actually out together with the head of threat intel at Black Hat of a pretty big oil company, and we said, hey, you're not really active in Appealy. And he said, oh, I'm in there every day. I don't post anything. I pull that information. So it's kind of, people can use it as they want.
Oh, it's a fantastic approach. I see it right here on your website at ThreatQuotient. And encourage people to go and sign up. So this community obviously is all about people to people, human to human engagement. But, AI is already making its way into security. And I think you've been using AI for some time to enhance the capabilities of the ThreatQ platform. Can you talk about that? And I don't know, maybe Christian, what direction you're going as far as infusing AI into some of this capability you built?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we did, as anyone would do with this problem set, is we built an integration with ChatGPT to be able to do research and lookups on things like malware families, adversaries, and things like that. I have a couple sort of pie in the sky visions in my head for ways we could really kick AI into high gear. But what I would caution the folks in the field to note is, AI is about the data. It's about the underlying data. And so if your AI is being based off of data that is proprietary or private, right, you might not want to send that information up to a cloud, to a provider that's going to presumably now just have it for maybe it gets used in another model, right? And I don't work for any of these AI companies, so I don't know exactly what goes on in there. I'm not accusing them of anything at all. But in the cybersecurity space, you certainly want to be conscious of where your data goes, and that's going to be a consideration as we continue to develop solutions in AI. And that will be at the forefront of my mind, and I can promise you, my products team, as we roll out more use cases within AI.
Yeah, and if you think about the three pillars of AI, it starts with machine learning, right? And ThreatQ, as you mentioned, has been doing that for years. We have machine learning going in and our scoring algorithms, how we determine what's important and what's not, and it goes back and tells each other. Natural language processing, we do that. We have an ACE parser that can parse reports that come in to pull out relevant things that you're looking for versus parsing a report and then having a bunch of junk in there. And then lastly, AI, which is which everyone's hearing about, the generative stuff where you're going out, and ChatGPT is another example. We have, like, our whole product is API. Everything in the product you can get to via API. So there's lots of, we can take advantage of what a Google is doing with AI and interact with their APIs. So we're, the nice thing, and there's a marketplace at ThreatQ, and we have about 400 integrations with other security products, because one product can't do it all, right? No matter what a vendor will tell you.
And so that's your marketplace. So you support this ecosystem of product feeds and integrations. That's how you describe the marketplace.
Yeah, think of it as an app store. We're not charging for those, but if you're using Chronicle for a SIM or Splunk for a SIM or whatever, we have an app for that, right? That'll make it work. That's you can get to that off our website, or Kristen, you can probably put it up there pretty quick. There you go, marketplace at ThreatQ. Quicker than I can do it.
And I will say, though, these integrations, unlike the App Store, and I'm not knocking the App Store, but where you have that little 99-cent button that you have to buy and tap your phone twice, we don't charge for these. So my mindset, if you're managing intel for your organization, don't you want to actually be able to put that intel somewhere where it's usable and detectable? So we encourage folks to get integrated with our other tools, as long as there's value there. And we're certainly not going to charge just to make that happen.
Wow, that's quite a resource for customers. Well done. So I don't think it's a secret that you work with the DOD in various capacities, or is it? Can you tell me, or are you going to sort of politely decline to just share what you're doing there?
We work with DOD, MODs really around the world. We have our solution can be hosted by us in a SOC 2, certified solution, or we can put it on-prem. The DoD wants what we call air-gapped, and that's one system internet-facing, one internal to their network. Think of it as a non-classified side, classified side. So, we have a couple terms for it, but it's basically ThreatQ to ThreatQ. We call it Mama Rhino to Baby Rhino sometimes, things like that. But we have the ability to encrypt data and get it from one box to another. Most of our DoD customers are in this air-gapped environment, which is two systems, one internet-facing, and you think about threat feeds coming in, and then one that's classified that the analysts are working on and adding information, maybe their own tags, talking to their SIM, but they communicate. The one data that's internet-facing sends data through a data diode, which is a one-way street really to the other ThreatQ instance that now does the other work.
Fantastic approach. So it's a pretty high pressure situation out there in security these days, as you guys know, when it comes to incident response. How do you sort of facilitate, faster, better, less noisy, more accurate, threat detection in your environment? What's your special sauce there?
Absolutely. So, from my perspective, specifically on what we do with intel management, it's the prioritization and the expiration of stale intel. So we've got policies to help manage all this. We also have things like data retention policies, right? So what are the challenges here, right? You might have 30 different intel sources, 2 of which you pay a lot of money for. But the problem is they all have different APIs, right? They all refer to the same type of stuff, but it's very difficult to actually take all that and paint one consistent picture with it. So we do that From there, we prioritize it. We could expire the stale stuff, and then we communicate that to the infrastructure. And if there's any sightings, we'll bring those back as well and say, hey, this is what happened in your environment, and this is the externally reported campaign or activity that's associated with it. Now, that's the answer from my perspective. At a broader perspective, the way you get ahead of this stuff is, I hate to say it like this, but like well-defined process, like understanding what tools are available to you and understanding how it all fits together and how your team's going to utilize it. There are many organizations out there staffed by very competent people, but there's nothing there to really tie everything together and enable these these processes that they and workflows that they need to be able to do their jobs effectively. And that's never going to change, right? But people can get a hold of it by joining the community and asking, how are you guys solving these challenges, and with what tools and with what sources and so on.
Yes. So there's something, that we talk about in security called predictive security versus reactive. And, reactive is seeing attacks, try to block an attack. Predictive is more, understanding who would be attacking you and why. We use an example of our tool and process is a customer of ours knows every day of the week there are 11 adversaries that you can name from different countries in the world that are attacking them all day long, every day. So what he's using threat intel, and this was a use case we really didn't think of as well. He's using threat intel to prioritize vulnerability scans. So his team will go out and use a vulnerability scan like Tenable. There's a number out there, but they'll use that. They'll bring it back and they'll see 1,000 vulnerabilities that they have to fix. He takes that, loads it into ThreatQ through our integrations, runs an automated process against it to take out those vulnerabilities and relate them to the adversaries he knows that are attacking them, right? So out of that 1,000 vulnerabilities that they do need to fix, 40 of them may be related to someone that's currently trying to break into their system. So obviously that moves up in the chain. But so that's a little bit of the predictive nature of using threat intel and good threat intel to be able to prioritize different use cases and protection capabilities within an environment.
Wow, quite a unique approach. Well done, guys. What are you looking forward to the rest of the year? I can't believe it's Thanksgiving. What's next? What are you looking forward to early Q1? Just personally, professionally, travel or otherwise? Anything on the radar, Matt?
So I have my 30th anniversary with my wife. We're taking off this weekend, day after Thanksgiving.
Well done.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. We have a handful of children, five children. 3 of them will be in town, so looking forward to that. And
big day.
A couple beers and watching some football.
Couldn't ask for more. Kristen, what about you? Do you have any travel coming up?
I just hope we have a decent ski season on the East Coast this year. And I know what everyone's thinking, there's no decent ski season on the East Coast, but I swear last year we got nothing. And I had to fly all the way to Colorado and places like that just to use my Epic Pass. So hopefully this year we could get something.
I don't know. The forecast is not looking great, but I'm with you up in the mountains in New Hampshire. There's some great, beautiful destinations. So it'd be nice to see them full of snow. And just one last question. I couldn't help but ask about this. What is with the rhinos? Tell us what the idea is. I mean, who doesn't like rhinos? I love rhinos, but you have a big support behind charity that helps rhinos. Any story here behind this, or was it just, hey, this is the animal we want to pick to support?
Christian, you or me?
You go, Matt. You tell stories better than I do.
Yeah, our 2 founders, I mentioned one guy ran the SOCs at General Dynamics and some DHS stuff, and his chief architect were looking for, really, it's not much more than they were looking for a cool logo. And I forget which one did they have, but they said it looked like a drunken squirrel or something, and it didn't. An artist had drew it up for him, and then they drew up a rhino, and then everyone got behind it. So we call the company, the Crash, which is a herd of rhinos. We support, rhino fundraisers and things like that. So it's been fun. It's been a nice thing. Christian, sorry, you were about to say something.
It's been a lot of years, but if I remember right, they wanted to do a logo of a honey badger, but it always kept looking like a platypus. So they didn't want a platypus, so we went with a rhino.
Yeah, I don't think there's a big cause for saving honey badgers. So well done on the choice there. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been fun just briefly chatting. What a wonderful mission you are on. And everyone, reach out, join the community and more. Maybe we'll get to meet you at RSA next year or one of the other many events.
Awesome, Evan. We appreciate the time and enjoyed the interview.
Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.